You were taught to wait for support, but waiting trained you to fail. Isolation is the real test of dominance. If this feels uncomfortable, stay. The myth of assistance. You were trained to believe success is a group project, that progress requires approval, that survival depends on support. This belief did not protect you, it domesticated you. The world does not reward the supported, it selects the self-directed. Assistance is not generosity, it is filtration. Those who wait for help are sorted into dependency. Those who move without it are sorted into power. You call it loneliness. The hierarchy calls it qualification. Every system teaches you to seek mentors, allies, networks, and guidance, not because they want you to rise, but because dependence makes you predictable. A man who requires support can be redirected. A man who moves alone cannot be controlled. Support feels safe because it removes responsibility. When you fail, you blame absence. When you succeed, you credit permission. Either way, your sovereignty is never acknowledged. This is the psychological trap. Isolation is not punishment, it is exposure. When no one is watching, you see your real strength. When no one is helping, you discover whether you can command yourself. When no one is guiding, you learn whether you can decide. Most men collapse here. They call it unfair. They call it trauma. They call it abandonment. The sovereign calls it training. The unsupported man has no audience, no applause, no safety net, only consequence, only adjustment, only survival intelligence. This is why most people never rise. They are still waiting for permission to begin. You are not behind because you lack support. You are behind because you still believe support is necessary. Power is not built in crowds. It is forged in controlled isolation, where excuses die and clarity remains. If this chapter unsettled you, it means... Chapter 2. The Scarcity Illusion Engine. You were taught to believe opportunity is rare, that resources are limited, that permission must be granted. This belief is the engine that keeps you obedient. Scarcity is not natural, it is manufactured. When systems convince you that access is limited, you compete horizontally instead of climbing vertically. You fight equals instead of positioning above them. You chase approval instead of building leverage. This is the core mechanism. Power does not move toward the most desperate, it moves toward the most independent. Scarcity thinking keeps you asking instead of arranging, explaining instead of deciding, hoping instead of structuring. Observe the pattern. Those who believe in scarcity beg for validation, guidance, collaboration. Those who understand abundance create silence, distance, and options. One group negotiates from hunger, the other from indifference. Hunger makes you transparent, indifference makes you unreadable. Scarcity also infects your time. You rush, you overwork, you overexplain, you accept conditions you should reject, you tolerate disrespect you should exit because you believe replacement is impossible. This is why unsupported men are dangerous. They do not assume access, they build it. They do not assume fairness, they engineer advantage. They do not wait for recognition, they create asymmetry. The illusion of scarcity keeps you small by convincing you that survival requires permission. In reality, survival requires positioning. Once you stop believing opportunities are rare, you stop behaving like a subordinate. You begin behaving like a selector, and selectors are never dependent. This chapter does not give you comfort, it removes a lie. Because the moment you realize scarcity is a control mechanism, your posture changes, your tone changes, your patience changes. You stop begging the table, you start designing the room. Chapter 3. The species inside the system. Every system creates species, not people. Species, predators, pawns, performers, rulers. You were taught they were equal. They are not. Pawns believe in effort. They work harder when ignored. They speak louder when dismissed. They think visibility comes from obedience. They confuse motion with progress. Performers believe in approval. They adjust personalities like masks. They chase relevance. They borrow confidence. They survive through attention, not control. Predators understand extraction. They read emotional weaknesses. They collect favors. They move quietly through other people's ambition. They rarely build. They feed. Rulers understand architecture. They do not chase outcomes. They design environments where outcomes are inevitable. They do not compete. They position. The tragedy is this. Most men rotate between pawn and performer, thinking they are evolving. They are not. They are being observed. Your words, reactions, patience, silence, all of it classifies you. The system is constantly assigning you a role. When you defend yourself, you signal insecurity. When you over-explain, you signal dependence. When you rush, you signal fear. When you stay where you are undervalued, you signal consent. Predators watch this. Rulers ignore it. The moment you understand these species, you stop trying to be liked, you stop trying to be fair, you stop trying to be understood, you begin trying to be placed correctly. And placement determines power. You cannot evolve inside a system that still sees you as usable. You must become unreadable, detached, selective, economical with emotion. This is not about cruelty. It is about classification. Because once you realize which species you have been performing as, you feel the humiliation. And humiliation is the doorway to change. You are not weak. You are mispositioned. And mispositioned men are always exploited. Chapter 4. The system never needed you alive. History does not remember effort. It remembers outcomes. Empires were not built by loyal men. They were built by replaceable ones. The system does not reward virtue. It rewards utility. Look at every hierarchy, political, financial, social, corporate. The same pattern repeats. Those who obey are praised. Those who question are removed. Those who adapt survive. Those who design rule. You were taught that loyalty creates security. It doesn't. It creates dependency, and dependency is the most profitable resource a system can extract. Human nature is not cooperative. It is opportunistic. Fear governs it. Status directs it. Self-interest sustains it. People do not protect what respects them. They protect what benefits them. This is why men who sacrifice the most are forgotten first. You are not competing against people. You are competing against incentives. Every structure you enter has already decided how much you are worth. Your silence, your obedience, your patience only confirm the price. History proves this without mercy. Soldiers were honored after being used. Workers were thanked after being replaced. Thinkers were celebrated after being silenced. Builders were praised after being discarded. The system never intended to keep you. It only intended to consume you. And here is the threat most men refuse to face. If you do not build leverage, you will always be traded for someone cheaper, quieter, younger, or more desperate, not because you failed. Chapter 5. The discipline of strategic distance. You don't fight the system by screaming at it, you starve it. The first shift is behavioral. You stop explaining, you stop seeking approval, you stop broadcasting effort. Visibility without leverage is submission. Most men think presence creates power. It doesn't. Scarcity does. You begin to move like a shadow in a battlefield. Calm, minimal, unavailable. You choose when to speak. You choose when to engage. You choose when to disappear. Silence is not weakness. It is unreadable positioning. When you stop reacting emotionally, people lose their grip on you. When you stop overgiving, people start calculating your value. When you stop performing, the hierarchy begins to watch you. You no longer rush to contribute. You wait to be required. You no longer volunteer loyalty. You trade access. This is not cruelty. This is survival engineering. You study patterns instead of personalities. You observe incentives instead of intentions. You recognize that people respect what they cannot predict and fear what they cannot control. Your discipline becomes cold, not rigid, precise. You don't chase opportunity. You build leverage until opportunity approaches you. You don't announce boundaries. You enforce absence. You don't confront disrespect. You remove access. This is the strategic shift, from emotional participation to sovereign positioning, from seeking belonging to designing distance, from needing support to becoming optional. When you stop asking for a seat, the table begins to rearrange itself, because the most dangerous man in any structure is not the loud one. It is the one who can walk away without bleeding. That is when you are no longer inside the game. You are shaping it. Chapter 6. The funeral of the old self. The version of you that needed support must die, not slowly, not gently, completely. You have been carrying an identity built for comfort, not survival, an identity that believed effort guaranteed reward, that believed loyalty created protection, that believed suffering would be noticed. That identity was designed to keep you manageable. You now bury it. You stop calling yourself unlucky. You stop calling yourself misunderstood. You stop calling yourself patient. Those words were excuses dressed as virtues. The new identity does not wait to be chosen. It positions itself to be unavoidable. You stop measuring yourself by approval. You stop negotiating your value through obedience. You stop proving your worth to people who benefit from your uncertainty. You replace emotion with clarity. You replace hope with structure. You replace desire with discipline. This is not becoming cruel. This is becoming unexploitable. The sovereign identity is quiet. It does not announce transformation. It does not seek witnesses. It moves in silence and leaves effects behind. Where the old self asked, the new self decides. Where the old self reacted, the new self calculates. Where the old self feared isolation, the new self weaponizes independence. You stop needing to be understood. You stop needing to be liked. You stop needing to be rescued. You begin to trust only what you can build, control, or replace. This is the moment the hierarchy senses you differently. Not because you demand respect, but because you no longer require permission. The world treats men according to the energy they carry, and the energy of a man who needs nothing is terrifying. You have not become heartless. You have become sovereign. This is the final identity shift, from survivor to architect, from participant to pressure. You do not stand inside the structure anymore. You stand above it. Chapter 7. The line in the sand. This is where most leave, not because they disagree, because agreement would demand change. You can feel it now. The quiet resistance, the instinct to soften what you've just accepted, the urge to reinterpret it into something safer. That urge is the chain. Every system survives by convincing its strongest minds to remain comfortable, to remain moral, to remain obedient, to remain hopeful. Hope is not a virtue here. Hope is a delay tactic. You were not built to be supported. You were built to adapt, dominate, and replace what fails you. The world does not reward potential. It rewards positioning, and positioning requires separation. This is the point where you decide whether you want understanding or leverage, whether you want belonging or sovereignty, whether you want to be protected by systems or feared by them. There is no middle rank. There is no neutral ground. You either remain inside the structure as a component, or you step outside it as a force. Most men will close this video and return to the identity they just pretended to question. They will call this too extreme. They will label it cold. They will say it lacks compassion. Those words are armor for weakness. This is not about becoming cruel. It is about becoming untouchable. And untouchable men do not ask permission to exist. They build in silence. They move without witnesses. They rise without applause. If you are still here, it is not because you are curious. It is because something in you refuses to remain small. This channel does not want everyone. It selects. Do not subscribe to be entertained. Subscribe to mark the moment you stopped being managed. This is MindForge. Most will turn back. You will not.